Hey, Art History, it's Mrs. Jones. We are going to continue on our discussion of two-dimensional media, and today we're really going to focus on related two-dimensional drawing medias. Again, I want to reiterate that the whole purpose that we are doing this exploration of media is so that we really understand the effort and work and technique and process that an artist puts into using particular mediums so that ultimately it will enhance our understanding and appreciation even more of that work. So a related medium that we are going to talk about right now is collage, and collage is French for pasting. And this means that you are basically using different pieces of flat media, maybe it's magazine, photograph, wallpaper, scrapbook paper, any type of flat medium that you are basically pasting together. And so we see an example of a more contemporary artist, which would be Romare Bearden, and he was very notorious for using collage and kind of mixing and matching different portraits together. And then we also see on the right an image by Pablo Picasso, where he is experimenting with some sheet music and colored paper, etc. Another medium that we will be seeing in our crash course into ancient artwork is the use of mosaic. And this is where you are actually using very small little bits, either of stone or glass or clay. They are called tesserae. And all of these tiny little pieces are put together to create an image. And typically we see this associated with wall art or floors, sometimes ceilings. This was a very, very durable material, and we see it a lot during the Roman and Byzantine era. So we will definitely be taking a peek at mosaic. Now we're going to talk about printmaking, and this was an art form that originated in China soon after the invention of paper. But this is a medium that we see flourishing across Europe during the 15th century. And one of the cool things about printmaking is that you are able to make multiple copies. Now we are going to talk about 4 common types of photography. We will be looking at lithography, intaglio, relief printing, and silkscreen. And it's going to be important for you to be able to identify the differences between the two. Now here in this example of lithography, you may look at this image by Kathy Kollwitz of Death Seizing Woman and think, wow, that kind of resembles charcoal. This is where looking at the credit line information of the work is going to be imperative for you to be able to discuss or write about the work appropriately. It is definitely a pet peeve of mine when people use the incorrect term when they are discussing or writing about an artwork. So you would not call this a drawing, although it is the type of printmaking that closely resembles drawing. Again, you would want to make sure that you would look at the credit line information. So lithography is basically based on the whole premise that oil and water repel one another. And so the image is typically sketched onto a stone with some sort of greasy pencil and treated with a solution. Now, I do a lithography project with my drawing class where we are using a more modern greasy utensil like Sharpie. And we are doing kind of a modern take on lithography. But this whole process is able to work because oil and water resist one another. And again, the cool thing is that you can make multiple prints. In the next slide, these are also some lithographs, but notice the technique is much more intricate and very detailed in comparison to Kolowit's rendition with lithography. She is using the grease pencil much more expressively and very fluidly to show movement, whereas M.C. Escher is using his excellent draftsman skills to really create the illusion that this could be a drawing yet again. But when you look at the credit line information, you will see that this is indeed a lithograph. So make sure you are using the correct terminology. One of the next types that we will talk about is intaglio, and this can be further broken down into 3 other parts, which would be engraving, etching, and aquatint. But essentially, intaglio means that you are using a type of metal point, okay, where you are scratching into a piece of metal with some sort of metal tool or stylus. And then you are using ink to rub into the grooves and then print on the paper. And please note that with lithography and intaglio, what you draw is what you get as the final drawing. Another type of printmaking is called relief printing, and this is probably the type of printing you might be most familiar with, or perhaps you have had experience with this type of printing, maybe even in elementary school or middle school. But this is where you're using some sort of material to carve away. It is a subtractive method. And so common materials could be that you are using wood to carve away, or linoleum, or soft rubber block. Those are some common materials, but you are actually carving away. And the part that is raised is what would actually receive the ink. So think about it almost like creating a stamp. And so this image by Elizabeth Catlett, you can see, is very high contrast, very textured, very bold lines. Those are all characteristics of what a relief print would look like, because you are carving it away. You're not just drawing. The newest form of printmaking that I can guarantee all of you probably have a type of this print in your closet is silkscreen. And that is essentially like some of the graphic t-shirts that you guys have been wearing. Anything that you have ever had printed, maybe your sports teams have even gone to the sports center and gotten some shirts printed, or a club. This is the newest of all the printmaking methods, and you're essentially creating a stencil design that you adhere to a screen, and you can kind of see through this image. Here would be the stencil, and it's a very, very fine mesh of screen, and you're squeegeeing the ink through that area that is open on the screen, and thus making the print. Artists like Andy Warhol, where you can see this image of Marilyn Monroe, made this type of printmaking very popular. Most of his silk screens were of pop culture, either celebrities or objects and images that were a part of the popular culture at the time.